Hi and welcome to Network Thoughts, the YouTube channel. Today we will look at the July data for all the passenger airlines in India which DGCA declared a couple of days ago. In July, which was the second full month of operations after grounding for 2 months, airlines in India carried 21.07 lakh passengers. This was about 1.23 lakh passengers more than what the airlines did in June. Now looking at the load factor details, we will see that load factors, SpiceJet recorded a load factor of 70%. SpiceJet was always above 90% for the last 50 months or so, and from there coming into March, when the airline really recorded less than 90% and March was again not a full month of operations, it has slowly started picking up and continues to lead in terms of load factor charts. All the other airlines were hovering between 50 to 60%, except Air India, which recorded 45.5% passenger load factor. But the other ones, Go Air was 50.5%, IndiGo was 60.2%, Vistara was 53.1%, and AirAsia was 56.2%. So there are other parameters which are released by DGCA, and we looked into it the last time when I did this video. And the interesting part here, of course, is the market share this time, because IndiGo for the first time has crossed 60% market share, and one of the highest ever for airlines in India. But we will first look at the cancellations part, and looking at the cancellations, we will see that Vistara still has 22.18% cancellations. Now, last time also cancellations, Vistara had very high rate of cancellation. A slight indication that the airline is opening up flights for sale, and then because the flights are not full, or probably last minute there are some change in regulations, the airline is not able to operate those flights, and that's where the cancellations are coming in. Even Air India had 12.26% cancellations, AirAsia India had close to 10%, IndiGo had 1.9%, and SpiceJet had 0.73%, whereas Go Air has reported a negligible 0.24% cancellation rate. Let us look at the reasons behind this cancellation. So DGC also gives that. Of course, these are reported by the airlines, but nearly 50% of the cancellations are due to commercial reasons. And commercial reasons typically mean, of course, there are no loads, there are restrictions when it comes to operating to a particular city or between two cities, and that's where these commercial reasons come into picture. Now, there are more things to look at. This gives a lot of insights, right? As I said before, 60.4%, that's the market share of IndiGo as we get out of July and into August. However, the airline carried just 12.74 lakh passengers, and I had tweeted about this earlier that we have gone back about 8 years. The airline carried nearly this many passengers 8 years ago in 2012, and today we are, but of course due to COVID-19 killing all the traffic in the country from where we were leading up to this to now, the biggest hit actually has been for everyone, where IndiGo has taken this market share from Air India, which dropped about 3% over the last month, also SpiceJet, which dropped about 1%, Go Air, which again dropped close to 1%, and then similar drops for Vistara as well as AirAsia India. So a percent or two here and there, and then IndiGo has gone from 52 to 60% suddenly. Of course, this is a function of capacity. IndiGo has been deploying much more, closer to the 45% capacity cap which is allowed, as compared to others who are not deploying as much capacity into the market. Consider here the fact that airfare has been capped both at lower end and higher end, and I've said this before on Twitter that if you look at the airfare cap, when it was done, the ATF, which is about 40 to 50% of operating cost for an airline, and this was at much lower price than what it is today. So coming into July and August, airlines are much more pressurized due to aviation turbine fuel being costlier than when these airfare caps were put in place. Of course, another aspect which is looked at is complaints, but we will not look into it. We will look at some of the interesting mix, the ASKM deployment. Now, what does ASKM deployment give you? ASKM deployment essentially tells you if the airlines are adhering to the route dispersal guidelines or not. While all airlines are adhering to this, we will know what is the deployment on which routes, and we see overwhelmingly the category 3 routes, which are mostly between metros and non-metros, have seen exceptional traffic. And we see IndiGo deploying 260% of their traffic on category 3. Now 260% of what? So there are 20 routes which are under category 1. So IndiGo has deployed 260% of the capacity which it deployed on these 20 routes on the category 3 routes, and this is where places like Aurangabad, Vadodara and so many others come into picture, or Lucknow come into picture, which are not into this category 1 routes or category 2 2A routes, but are seeing a lot of traffic. And that's what we can see here, almost everybody. So yeah, the mandate is 35%. The route dispersal guidelines mandate you to have only 35% of your operations of category 1 on category 3. And if you look at this, Air India plus Alliance Air 123.9%, SpiceJet 136.6%, Go Air 223.2%, IndiGo 260.1%, Vistara 48.5%, AirAsia India 130.2%. So everybody is much higher than what the required mandate is for this. An indication of where the traffic is flowing in the country, and also a good idea for network planners to plan in the next few days or next few months on where the traffic is likely to come back from if it has been a unidirectional traffic. Now, another thing which we discussed last time, of course, was about the airfares, how it comes and where it is coming from, and that kind of reporting. But before we go there, let us look at the on-time performance. Of course, less than 50% of the flights are allowed to operate, much lesser are being operated. So even in a month like July, which has some monsoon disruption, typically the OTP was very strong, and AirAsia India recorded 98.1% highest, followed by IndiGo, which was 97.6%, followed by Vistara, which was 95.9%. Even Air India, the lowest was 89.3%, much more than what typically the airline is at. So let us also give a quick glance at the highest fare buckets. Let us look at IndiGo, 60% market share. Where did it really operate these flights, and where did it pick up the maximum fare from? So Bangalore Bombay, 2.65% of our seats were sold in highest bracket. Bangalore Calcutta came into that list. Bombay Calcutta came into that list. Then you had a few other ones like Calcutta Chennai into that list, and the airline did make some bid between 5 to 10% of the revenue earned in the highest fare bracket from these particular cities. So what it was earlier in May and June, it has now dropped down, but of course it is not yet flattened. Airlines are still being able to charge fares in the highest fare bracket. In normal times it could be a good informative thing, but in current times it is a good insight, and the only reason I'm calling this as an insight because the fares are capped and you cannot sell more seats in the highest fare bracket. Even that is limited. So that gives you an idea of how the revenue management is done, how seats and buckets reached up to a level where you can actually command a position in the market to get highest airfare in the market. So overall, if you look at July, of course, dominated by IndiGo, 60% market share, making all the right headlines everywhere. And going forward, the airfare is capped till last week of November. However, the flights have gone up. The number of flights which were around 700, 750 in the past have slowly inched towards 900 over the weekend and holding up in the range of 800 during the weekdays. So looking at these, of course, the passenger numbers will go up, but may not be the case with load factors as such. and by end of August we would know what the situation is in the market, if the flights would go towards 1000 as we inch into September, or are we going to be very closer to where we were in July and end August that way as well. Thankfully, the regulations are being relaxed. You can get your test done. If you are COVID negative, you can fly. More and more international services are being opened up, and this will definitely help the domestic market. So I now remain optimistic about more flights and more passengers coming on board. But of course, a full recovery is going to take a lot of time, and a lot of that is going to depend primarily on when the vaccine hits the market and people start getting vaccinated, because in most cities in India we are yet to flatten the curve, we are yet to reach where others have reached. So that's it about July from my end. I hope you like this video. I hope you found this analysis insightful. Do let me know what your thoughts are. Also let me know what other insightful analysis you would want to hear from me, and I would be happy to do a video about this. Thank you, and do subscribe to this channel, Network Thoughts on YouTube. Continue following the blog and continue following Network Thoughts and me on Twitter. Thanks for your time.